Buffalo Bills are planning on freeing up Stefon Diggs. This article breaks down the top 10 free agent wide receivers, and in my previous videos, we've been diagnosing all of the wide receivers, especially at the Senior Bowl. Tons of highlights and clips, including McCaffrey, McConkey, some other dynamic weapons the Bills are going to consider. But will they consider both drafting a wide receiver as well as signing a free agent? Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, we don't have cap room, we don't have the cap space, but crazier things have happened. And as I mentioned in previous videos, if we decide to bring in another wide receiver opposite of Stefon Diggs, it should free up Diggs, meaning that he should have his stats skyrocket. Diggs is going to like it. It should open the door for Diggs potentially restructuring his contract. And you could see number one on the list here, the 10th best player, free agent wide receiver, is Odell Beckham. And let's not forget, Odell Beckham came off an injury, hasn't played in a while, went to the Ravens, had a slow start, and there was some bickering there, especially with Odell Beckham's dad saying that if he had a better quarterback, Odell Beckham would have played better. Lamar Jackson, primarily a running type quarterback. Josh Allen can run it and sling it with his arm. I think Odell Beckham's stats would definitely be better in 2024, plus his relationship with Von Miller, and I think we could definitely get Odell Beckham for a very, very reasonable rate. Now, KJ Osborne is a sleeper and a Minnesota Vikings player. You know, Diggs did play for the Vikings as well, so they would relate there, and KJ Osborne definitely had a lackluster season. 2022, he balled out of control. I was expecting a lot more from him in 2023, but only 48 receptions, 540 yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns. Let's not forget Tyler Boyd. Now, Tyler Boyd is getting very, very old up in age, but Tyler Boyd and the Dalton Dart, how could we forget that? Cincinnati Bengals, Tyler Boyd at 67 receptions, 667 receiving yards, and only 2 receiving touchdowns. But it's very interesting because both the Bengals star receivers here, Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, who's going to come up in a little bit, is available in free agency. Now, what's interesting to note here is that they have Gabe Davis as the 7th best wide receiver coming out. But if we're trying to upgrade the position, why would we pick any of the receivers before, especially if they don't think that they're as good as Gabe Davis? But in my mind, Tyler Boyd, KJ Osborne, Odell Beckham, they all have a lot of potential to be better than Gabe Davis. So I don't necessarily agree with how they have listed these wide receivers. If we do happen to get Gabe Davis for a very reasonable rate, maybe he does come back to Buffalo, obviously hit the ground running, knowing Joe Brady's scheme, knowing this offense, there will literally be no delays starting 2024. Darnell Mooney, kind of a letdown with Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears, but you could see only 31 receptions, 414 total yards, and 1 receiving touchdown in 2023. But I think you pair Darnell Mooney with Josh Allen, Stefon Diggs, Joe Brady, and the Brady Bunch, and this entire offense, I think we could definitely get the most out of Darnell Mooney. And there's a reason why they have Mooney even ahead of Gabe Davis and Odell Beckham, because of the potential that he has. And you could see Mooney had 81 passes for 1,055 yards and 4 touchdowns in his breakout sophomore campaign in 2021. But he has not come close to that in several seasons. Now, a player the Bills have been interested in the past is Marquise Brown, playing for the Arizona Cardinals right now, but in 2023, 51 receptions, 574 yards, and 4 receiving touchdowns. Brown is a speedy wideout who lacks size, but could break a game open with huge passing plays down the field. Something that we've spoken about. We need explosive plays. We need chunk plays. So his speed and quickness allows him to rack up lots of yards after the catch as well. Brown missed 8 games over the last 2 seasons, which definitely hurts his overall price hitting free agency. So he's not the most durable wideout, but he's a legit playmaker and worthy of being a number 2 on a good team. Deontay Hardy also lacks a little bit of size, but I think Marquise Brown is a little bit bigger than Hardy and has proven himself a little bit more, especially as an offensive weapon. Now, things are starting to get get really interesting here with Kelvin Ridley, a dynamic wide receiver who also kind of had a lackluster year. I mean, 1,000 receiving yards, 8 receiving touchdowns in 2023 with Trevor Lawrence. And he didn't play in 2022 because of a suspension. But I really believe Kelvin Ridley is just getting started here. After not playing in 2022, after having to go to the Jaguars, learn that scheme, learn Trevor Lawrence, it's amazing to see what he was able to do, going over 1,000 yards receiving, 8 receiving touchdowns. I believe Josh Allen is a better arm talent, better quarterback by far than Trevor Lawrence. Just imagine what Kelvin Ridley would be like on the Buffalo Bills, opposite of Stefon Diggs, clearly opening things up for Stefon Diggs. They want to cover Diggs. We have Kelvin Ridley one-on-one with no safety over the top on the other side. Some people are starting to talk about him, but Michael Pittman of the Indianapolis Colts, 109 receptions for 1,152 yards, 4 receiving touchdowns. He is 6'4", 223 pounds, a big dynamic wide receiver. In my previous video, we discussed Justin Shorter, who's 6'4", 230 pounds. So there is a body type that Brandon Beane and the Buffalo Bills clearly are eyeing up and they want on this offense. Justin Shorter is a sure telltale proof of that. So Michael Pittman is definitely on their radar. I'm sure they're definitely eyeing him up. My problem here is that these guys are going to be getting a premium, and when we're fighting against the cap space, it's going to be awfully hard to bring one of these guys in. Now just think about Mike Evans and Stefon Diggs on the same team together. Talk about having a big body type at 6'5", 233 pounds, 79 receptions, 1,255 receiving yards, and 13 receiving touchdowns from Baker Mayfield. Josh Allen, clearly a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield. Mike Evans is getting up in age, so how much of a premium is he going to get in free agency? The Buffalo Bills could very well get him for a reasonable price and would fit exactly what Joe Brady, Stefon Diggs, and the Buffalo Bills want to do. Big, explosive chunk plays on offense. And lastly, T. Higgins, who is most likely going to get the most money out of free agency here, 6'4", 219 pounds. Man, are you kidding me? Only 42 receptions, though, last year at 656 and 5 receiving touchdowns. Spent a lot of time hurt this past season, but with Joe Burrow balling out of control, doing some big-time things, he really is a dynamic weapon for the Bengals or for any team that he comes to. During his time with the Bengals the past previous 2 seasons, he caught 74 passes, reached 1,000-yard mark in each of the previous 2 seasons with quarterback Joe Burrow. Now, I know we're all eyeing up the NFL draft, but Brandon Beane always states that he uses free agency to fill the holes before we enter the draft so that we're not stretching in the NFL draft and maybe taking a player that isn't the best available. So the Buffalo Bills are definitely eyeing up wide receiver. We're definitely eyeing up these free agent wide receivers, especially if we don't get into a bidding war, if we get them for a very reasonable rate. Or maybe a player like Odell Beckham sees that we have Von Miller, we have Josh Allen, we're going to be able to make him the best that he could potentially be, and he just decides to come here for a reasonable rate. But I want to hear from you. Which of these free agents or other free agent wide receivers are you excited about coming to the Buffalo Bills? I think the Bills would definitely benefit having an opposite wide receiver of Stefon Diggs, which would open the door for Diggs possibly renegotiating his contract or restructuring things for us to save money. Appreciate you guys all so much. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit like, subscribe. That's going to signal to me to keep making videos just like this. Also, check the links in the description. We have some awesome links. The Buffalo Chicken Wing, we have $50 off course, careers course, free introduction course for you guys to land 100% remote job. That's how I landed my full-time position. But I appreciate you. Hit like, subscribe, and go Bills.